Welcome, and thank you for joining us for Meeting 2 of the Research to Practice Pipeline. Today, we're diving into your first major Research to Practice product, creating a podcast episode based on your selected research article. Last time, we discussed the year-long structure of the Research to Practice sequence and how each product builds on the clinical implications of your article. Today, we'll be taking the first step in turning that research into an accessible and engaging format. Here's our plan for today. First, we'll talk about why we begin the Research to Practice process with a podcast. Next, we'll walk through how to dissect your research articles specifically for podcast content. We'll then cover how to prepare your interview questions, how to use the podcast introduction and closing script, and how to record your podcast, including tools, flow, and expectations. We'll also discuss how to clearly communicate clinical implications for practitioners and how your ongoing social media posting supports and extends this work across the year. Finally, we'll review your action steps before meeting 3. Your task for this meeting is to create a 10 to 12 minute podcast episode using the ECEI standard format. You'll interview the researcher who authored your selected article. You'll use the provided introduction and closing scripts along with the core interview questions. In addition, you'll prepare 2 custom questions that directly relate to the clinical implications of the study. These personalized questions help deepen the conversation and show your understanding of the research. You'll then edit your recording for clarity, pacing, and professionalism. This podcast is the first major Research to Practice product based on your article, and it sets the stage for every product that follows. Let's take a moment to talk about the purpose behind this assignment. As doctoral students, we need to be able to communicate research clearly and accurately and to translate findings into practical implications for teachers, families, and communities. The podcast helps us strengthen our ability to speak about research in a conversational and accessible way. It also builds the foundation for your blog post, your webinar, your conference presentation, and your practice article. So we approach this not as a standalone assignment, but as the first component of our year-long dissemination sequence. Here are your primary instructions for the assignment. First, contact the author of your selected research article. Introduce yourself, share why you chose the article, and request a brief 10 to 12 minute interview. Next, record your episode using the structure we provide and edit the recording to remove pauses, background noise, or off-topic moments. Finally, submit the completed audio file and a 100 to 150 word summary of the episode. This summary will later become part of your dissemination materials. Before you record, you'll want to take a few important steps. Start by reviewing your guest's recent work, including your selected article. This helps you prepare thoughtful questions and anticipate the direction of your conversation. Complete the standard introduction and closing scripts so that your episode aligns with others produced in this pipeline. Draft 2 custom questions that relate specifically to the clinical implications of your article. What practitioners should do differently because of this research. Test your recording setup and ensure you're in a quiet, distraction-free environment. This preparation will make your conversation smoother and your final episode more professional. Before recording, make sure you understand the article deeply enough to explain it clearly. Use language that feels natural and accessible. Your goal isn't to simplify the research, but to make it understandable to someone hearing it for the first time. Most importantly, accuracy matters. Stay grounded in what the researchers actually found and keep drawing listeners back to the study as the anchor for your conversation. Listeners want to know how this research translates into their daily work with children, families, or teachers. Give concrete examples. things a practitioner could literally try tomorrow. When you highlight practical implications, you help bridge the gap between research and practice. Keep reinforcing why the findings matter and how they can make a difference in real classrooms. During the podcast, begin with the provided introduction to establish consistency. Speak clearly and at a steady, comfortable pace. Listeners will be hearing this without visuals, so clarity is key. Listen actively and respond naturally to your guest's points. Keep the conversation focused on the research and maintain a professional, conversational tone. Stay mindful of the 10 to 12 minute time frame to keep the episode concise and engaging. Strong podcasts strike a balance between solid content and engaging delivery. As you prepare, remember that your listeners may not be familiar with the study or the terminology, so your goal is to make the research accessible and easy to follow. Keep explanations clear, conversational, and connected to the core message of the article. This helps ensure that listeners remain engaged and can follow the conversation from beginning to end. Your role as the interviewer is to create a comfortable environment where your guests can share their work naturally and confidently. Open-ended questions are the easiest way to guide the conversation and encourage rich responses. As you listen, gently keep the focus on the research and its implications so the conversation remains cohesive and aligned with the purpose of the episode. Listeners expect a clear beginning, middle, and end. The 10 to 12 minute structure helps keep your episode concise and tightly focused. The provided introduction and question sequence are designed to help you maintain consistency across the Research to Practice podcast. Practice ahead of time to ensure smooth pacing and transitions. After recording, your editing work helps shape a polished, professional episode. Start by removing background noise and any long pauses that interrupt the flow. Then make sure your volume levels are balanced. Listeners should never strain to hear either voice. Finally, listen for pacing. Your goal is an episode that feels smooth and engaging from beginning to end. After completing your edits, your final step is to prepare your episode for submission. Start by writing a clear 100 to 150 word summary that captures the purpose of the episode and the key insights from your conversation with the researcher. Next, add the ECEI intro and outro music to give your recording a polished, consistent sound across the series. Once your summary is complete and your audio file is finalized, submit both items through the link provided. Before our next meeting, record your podcast, edit the audio, and write your summary. Submit both items as instructed. Create at least one new social media post related to your article's clinical implications. Remember, these posts help route practitioners back to the original research. Bring your podcast notes and social media draft with you to Meeting 3, where we'll begin turning your research into visual content. Thank you for your participation and engagement in today's meeting. Your work translating research into accessible, practice-focused products is an important part of the Research to Practice pipeline, and each step builds your skills as both a scholar and a communicator. Please use the citation on this slide if you'd like to document your completion of Meeting 2 on your CV or professional materials. I appreciate the thoughtfulness you bring to this process and look forward to seeing your podcast episodes and discussing your next Research to Practice product in Meeting 3.